I just checked the weather and it says that it's gonna freeze and have a hard frost tonight, which means all these beautiful flowers on the farm are gonna die. So I better show them off to all of you and do an October farm tour. It's mid-October right now, and I feel like the farm probably looks the best it ever has in an October before. Normally we have everything kind of finishing up. You know, most of October we're just kind of going after the bits and pieces, but we have a ton of flowers that are looking really great, which makes me a little sad that the frost is going to be killing them all. I'm definitely not going to be able to harvest everything before the frost tonight, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to harvest as much as I can. We had nothing but problems with zinnias this year, which you wouldn't think based on how amazing they look. Normally, we try to get the zinnias in as seedlings, kind of in mid-May, but this year I was like, no, it's too much work. We're gonna direct seed our zinnias, so I direct seeded them, and then bugs came and ate them all, and I was like, no, direct seed again, and then they popped up and bugs came and they ate them all a second time, and then I gave up and I was like, fine, okay, seedlings. So the zinnias didn't actually get planted into the farm until early summer, which is really late. But I kind of like it because that means we now have like beautiful, productive zinnias at a time of year when they would start to be kind of fizzling out. I've really appreciated having so many to work with. Often in this kind of like early fall time of year, as I'm putting the bouquets together, I don't have enough of everything. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I have bits and pieces of this and that. But yeah, so it's been really nice to have just an abundance of zinnias. Because I mean, how can you not love these? I mean, look at how gorgeous these things are. They're just beautiful, bright puffs. You know, they're zinnias. They're a really special flower, and yeah, I love them. Bow. 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 He doesn't care. He's busy. We have a really big sales weekend coming up. So we've been making tons of bouquets and they look absolutely gorgeous. So I'm gonna take you inside and I'm gonna show you what they look like before we get to all the flowers. I have 90 bouquets prepped for the market and they're looking pretty incredible. With so many zinnias to work with, it's been a lot of fun to put these together. The one thing all of these bouquets are missing though is scent. At this time of year, none of the flowers I grow are scented, and I miss that. In the spring, there are daffodils and peonies, and I love the scent of summer lilies, but fall, not so much. To get some flower smell back in my life, I recently got some fragrances from Scentbird. Judith Ripka's Runaway Rose is a sweet rose scent. Nanette Lepore's Ooh La La Lepore has a great peony note. But my favorite is Shea and Blue's Lilacs and Gooseberries, which is a spicy floral that I really love on my skin. And I love the Witcher books, so the fact I can imagine I smell like what Geralt imagines Yennefer to smell like brings out the book nerd in me. Scentbird is a monthly perfume subscription box that allows you to try a new scent every month for $16.95, and your first fragrance is only $8. Each vial is a 30-day supply, 120 sprays, so it gives you lots of time to explore each new scent. There are over 700 different fragrances with options for perfume or cologne, and with lots of popular brands like Prada and Versace, as well as niche labels such as Parfums de Marly and Roja, it's easy to find something you're excited about. They also have a fun quiz to help you find a scent if you just can't pick with so many options. Best of all, it comes straight to your door, making trying new scents so simple. I also love the fragrance cases, which are simple and cute and makes carrying the scents with me a breeze. If you're interested in trying Scentbird, scan my QR code or use code GRASS to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That's only $8, and I have a link below. Okay, but back to the farm and back to the flowers. At the very end of the farm, there is a planting of about 1,000 sedums. And the variety on these is Autumn Joy and Autumn Fire. They're very similar, so I don't actually know which one is which. They're just, one's lighter pink, one's darker pink. But these, I absolutely love these for fall. So throughout the summer, they have like a green kind of bud in these like clusters, and they're really pretty, and you can use them as a filler at that point. But in the fall, the blooms open up, they get these really great colors. This is it kind of finishing, but I still like the textural look of this. Yeah, and they're really drought tolerant. They're really cold hardy. These often can survive a frost and still look really attractive and be able to pick. And they're a perennial, so they come back year after year. These are just a first year planting. So they really don't look like much, but they turn into kind of this like cluster of stems as they age. So down here, I'll probably be picking a few of these, the taller ones that I can find, just to have some extra stuff, but I don't have to worry about picking these today. These are on the after frost list, but yeah, no, I love these in fall arrangements. And then another one of my top tier favorite things that I grow just for the fall is miscanthus grasses. So I have a mix of varieties in here, and I never did label them. So I can't say what is what. I know silver feather is one of my favorites, which I think is the lighter colored one. But I can't remember what the name of this one is. I love this. It has a little bit of a darker coloring. These we save up just for fall. They don't actually have their grass blooms until kind of, late summer, kind of into September. And then you can, if you grow this as a home plant, these kind of puff out and turn into this really pretty look. And I really like them, like just in the garden all winter long. Or you can pick them and dry them and have this like kind of pampas style kind of look. But yeah, this we got just like a little hedge of this, and every year I look forward to when they bloom. I get about a month of using them, and yet again, these will survive the frost, so I don't have to worry about harvesting these today. This summer, we also planted a bunch of Delphiniums down in this end section of the farm. Delphiniums, they like to bloom in the cooler weather, so they're a perennial. They come back year after year, and normally you'd kind of be getting blooms on them in late spring, early summer, which is great because that's a period of time on the farm when we always need flowers. But as the days get shorter and the nights start to get cooler, you can also get fall flushes on them too. And so they sent up some blooms in the end after growing, and they're gorgeous. They're so beautiful. I mean, the color on this is like, it's incredible. It's so blue. It's kind of a weedy mess in here, so I can't really show you much, but there's also a few whites. There's this like mauvey purple that's blooming. They're really, really beautiful plants. It'll be interesting to see what they look like next year. One thing I'm not worried about the frost for is the peony patch. At this time of year, I probably could have cleaned this up earlier. What you do for peonies is you take the foliage off of them kind of at the end of the season. It's a good idea to remove the peony greens like off of the plants, maybe even off the property, because they can have funguses in them. So, didn't happen, but with the frost coming and the flowers being done, now is a perfect time to come in here, cut down all these peonies, get everything looking nice and clean for the winter. But yeah, and then come spring, they'll be back up again doing their thing. You gotta love the perennials for that. They just, they do take work to maintain throughout the year, but it's nice to know that you have something guaranteed for the next year. Oh, you're cute. You're cute, you're cute, you're cute. You're cute. Oh, you're so cute. I know I already showed off the zinnia bed at the bottom, but we have lots of zinnias. This is another 2 beds here, and yeah, they're just gorgeous. It's like, I'm gonna pick as many as I can. I hope to pick 1,000 zinnias today, but it will be sad to see these all turn brown after the frost tomorrow. The zinnia variety that we grow here is Bennery's Giant in pretty much all the colors. Last year we grew 3 beds of strawflowers, but we grew them just for the flowers. When we went to harvest them, we came along and we just plucked the flower head off, and then we dried them, and now there is a lifetime supply for crafts. But I wanted to grow a few more again this year because they are nice to use in bouquets, and they are a pretty like low maintenance crop. So I've been picking off of this bed like pretty heavily for the last month. I've been doing a bunch of bouquets that like, you know, feature pretty prominently the straw flowers. But what I wanted to show you guys is something that's kind of like interesting about the straw flowers. So these, they all kind of look like these ball button things right now. These don't look like what you'd think a straw flower would look like, you know, the open petal, like sound making type thing. And that's because one of the things that's interesting about the straw flowers is when they're wet or damp, the flowers actually close up. They seal themselves in to keep the water kind of not getting stuck in the flower. So it's not until these dry out that they'll open up. And at this time of year when, you know, there's a lot of dew and moisture in the mornings and the days aren't super warm, often they'll kind of be like this, like permanently, or I'll harvest them and I'll stick them in the cooler where it's cool and humid, and then they'll close right up. So, you know, if you ever see in your garden are growing these and they're closed and you're like, oh, there's something wrong with them. No, just pick them, bring them in. Once the warm dryer in the house dries them out, they'll open right up and look beautiful again. In the farm tours this year, I've featured the sunflowers a lot, and they've looked really good. Not so much right now. But I wanted to kind of show you the end of the system that we have going here. So what happened is we planted sunflowers every 2 weeks. So we do like a row or two, and what I grow is pro cuts, and I make a mix myself of different colors. So, you know, earlier in the season, I start with more of the brights, more of the fun stuff, and then as it gets later into the season for planting, I have more of the darks, a little bit moodier for those fall palettes. But so the pro cut sunflowers, they're ready to harvest really quickly. They're kind of like 60 days, kind of 60 to 70 days from seed to bloom, which is amazing. They're incredible because of that. But because the different colors bloom at different times, even though, you know, it's kind of just that like 10-day range, that every planting that I do would kind of bloom, you know, for 2 weeks. First it would be, the yellows, and then the reds, and then the whites would come on. And because I was planting stuff every 2 weeks, it worked out really well to always have sunflowers. And there was even a little bit of overlap where the last variety to bloom, which is the double quick is the variety that we grow. It would be blooming in the first planting when the second planting would be like well on its way into harvesting. And so it created kind of this like staggered system. I really had hoped that we had planted one more planting. We missed the last planting, and then it was too late to bother. Because if we did, then I'd still have those brights right now, you know, and it's best to plant for being hopeful. Frost can happen at any time, but frost can also sometimes not come until the end of October. So, you know, it'd be nice to have them if the weather was good. That didn't happen, but even though we basically are into the window when the sunflowers are done, because of the fact that the double quick blooms so much later, I do actually still have sunflowers that I'll be able to pick for this kind of last harvest on everything. This is our very last planting on the sunflowers. It's kind of been finished for the last like week, 10 days, but you know, over the last couple days, The double quicks have started opening up, and you know, it's nice to have this staggered, constantly flowing sunflower system, because sunflowers are great. And if you have a flower farm, like, you gotta grow them. They're pure money. Sunflowers, gotta grow sunflowers. One flower I would never want to be without in the fall is marigolds. Marigolds basically make up the backbone of all my bouquets, kind of like from late summer onwards. They're big and bushy and bulky. They're really punchy. A lot of our customers don't actually even know that they're marigolds. I've heard lots of people call them mums in the bouquet, and they last forever. Often the marigolds will actually start rooting in the vase, and like I've regularly seen them last for 3 weeks. So, you know, they're just a really nice cut flower. The variety that we grow here on the farm is cocoa, and we grow it in yellow, which is what's behind me, but also gold, which is a warm orange, and then orange, which is like a bright, bright orange. Here's the orange and the gold. These, you know, they're just incredible. I love them. Actually, I'm gonna show you. I've already today picked 300. That's why there's a batch here that's empty, but you gotta see these when they're picked en masse. This is 3 of the 4 totes that I have so far. So this is like 225 marigolds. But, I mean, I could just take a bunch of these. Like, just have a bouquet that's just marigolds. That would, like, I think that would make me pretty happy. Back in June, we planted some bare root dahlias into this greenhouse frame, with the plan being that we were going to then cover it, and so when frost came we would still have a good flush of dahlias. But I think that these never got enough water. We're really, really dry here in the Okanagan. You know, we just don't get rain in the summer. So even though this is open, and it was getting some water overspraying from the farm onto it, just anything that isn't getting that regular, you know, good dose of water here just doesn't really grow much. And you can kind of see, like, you know, with varieties here, you can see how like limp the leaves are. You know, it kind of never really amounted to much. You know, so it's interesting to see just how much water can really change how these dahlias grow. With the time of year that we planted them, with the way the weather was, if these would have gotten proper water, they would have been huge blooming like bushes by now. One planting that was very successful though was this bed of anise hyssop behind me. Anise hyssop is probably my favorite greenery out of any greenery that we grow on the farm, and it's a perennial, so it comes back every year. Here in the Okanagan, it's kind of inconsistent. About 50% of the plants will come back for us, but it also self-seeds really well. So it's easy to kind of get a patch going. The anise hyssop though, the problem is it blooms in kind of like early summer. It's kind of a lot of perennials, they overwinter, and then once the heat of spring comes, they grow a bit and then they bloom before kind of just hanging out all summer long, getting energy to, you know, do the cycle again next year. And that makes me sad because I want to use anise hyssop in every single bouquet on the farm every week until the very end. So what I did is I put in a planting in around the time that the anise hyssop was blooming. Planted these plants into the ground. They were just like tiny little nothing. They grew all summer, and then once they had some cooler nights as we got into September, it started blooming. The plants are not as big and bushy and healthy as the overwintered ones, but anise hyssop at this time of year, I'll take it. It's great. I would do this every year. This just makes me happy to have more anise hyssop to play with. And then we have the Cosmo patch. Cosmos drive me crazy. I've been saying for years, like, nope, that's it. I'm not doing it. I'm not growing them anymore. I hate them. They are so annoying to harvest. You know, this patch back here is kind of a perfect example of how annoying they are to harvest. So because I had so many of them growing in the summer, I couldn't use them all, so I didn't harvest these. I didn't deadhead them, and so now I have these stems where if I wanted to use it, I could, but I'd have to do all this deadheading to get a usable stem. I'd have to be taking off all these blooms, you know, just to kind of get a little bit of something that isn't as great as, you know, these kind of stems that are fresh growth. So the problem with Cosmos is they're so productive. It's hard to keep on top of them. And then when you don't keep on top of them, then they don't keep producing in the way that you want them to be producing. But every year, after being like, I hate them and they take forever to harvest and I don't want to do it, I'm like, yeah, but like, what if I like need some flowers? What if I run out? They're always so consistent, so regular that I cave in and I plant them. So this whole hedge, this was planted direct seed, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And then I proceed to every week spend hours harvesting them. I put 4 in every single bouquet because I do enjoy using them. But it definitely is a love-hate relationship. But I am picky about what I grow. That is part of how I get to justify keeping growing them. This variety here is double click. So they are a big puffy double. They have these big, beautiful, fluffy heads. And this color specifically, I love this beautiful violet. I'm pretty sure the name of it is Bonbon. They have all these like different names instead of colored names. Like the white is Snow Puff instead of white. But this color, I love how it's like purpley while also being pink. I find it blends with just so many different colors on the farm that like I really enjoy using it. And then another one that I love is the apricot varieties. I'd only kind of started growing these in the last couple of years, and I can never remember which is the variety that I like. This is the one that I like. So I grow apricota, and then I think that there's like apricot lemonade or something. I forget the name of the other one. But yeah, so I grow 2 different varieties that are both apricot Cosmos, and this is the one that I like. This one is way more productive. The plant like grows a lot nicer stems. The flowers are usually a lot bigger too, whereas these, the flowers are smaller. These kind of flowers have gotten bigger in the last couple weeks. I think maybe these like cooler weather. And then they've gotten a lot more yellow. Usually the colors are a little bit more similar. But yeah, no, it's really, I mean, you know, it's kind of fascinating to me how, you know, you have these purples and these yellows and these whites and these pinks. Like there's so many different colors that you can get in the Cosmos. It does make it fun and tempting to grow them, even though they're annoying. And then, saving best for last, I have to gush about statice because it's my absolute favorite and I love it. I think it is my absolute favorite thing to grow. It's just so fun and it's so weird and it comes in so many different colors. I really enjoy it. But one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is that my statice gets diseased. You know, at this time of year, my plants are often looking like this, where there's kind of some of these like dead stems, you know, and where they're gone like brown. Like they look very unattractive, or there'll be stems where the flowers are looking more like this, and they never open up. They just kind of keep this weird shape to it. And I always figured that the issue was that the plants were struggling with the colder weather. Maybe they were getting like frost touched. Maybe they were getting a little bit too much like humidity with all the dew. maybe some sort of neglect on my part. But I learned last year that these are actually signs of Astor's yellow disease in the statice. I deal with a huge amount of that here on the farm. We have a lot of grasshoppers that come in the summer and they eat the plants. We have so many flowers, it doesn't really matter that the grasshoppers are eating the plants. But the problem with grasshoppers is they carry a ton of viruses, and so they spread disease into a lot of the plants on the farm. We get a lot of mosaic viruses that are into some of the plants, but the thing that I see the most is the Astor's yellow. The Astor's yellow is, a little bit more easy to spot in perennials and stuff like the rudbeckia. Asters obviously get it, or echinacea. They're really susceptible to it too. And what happens when the plant gets diseased is it will, in the early stages, the first kind of sign that you know it's happening is you'll start getting these green flowers, right? So you can see like this, it's not yellow the way rudbeckia should be. It's this kind of green coloring to it, which I always love. I always get excited when I see these because I'm like, what an amazing look. But the problem is that this rudbeckia means that the plant that grew this actually has the disease, and it'll continue to carry it over the winter. And even though the first sign is just this little bit of green on the plants, which I love the look of, as it develops, the flowers are going to be mutated, the plant is going to be like really struggling, and eventually it's going to die. So, we deal with a lot of this, but I never realized that even stuff like statice can get infected with this disease too. So, if you're the same as me and you're finding a lot of, this red stem on your statice, consider it could be Astor yellow, could be a virus and not just, poor growing on your part. I'm always really sad to see the season come to an end. October you're always living on borrowed time because frost could come at any moment. And I really can't complain. It is the middle of the month. To get this far is pretty wonderful. But yeah, you gotta enjoy the beauty while it's still there. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all the flowers before they disappear with the frost tonight. How do they smell, Bo? If you're interested in trying Scentbird, scan my QR code or use code GRASS to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That's only $8, and I have a link below.